You are going to die. Eventually anyways, it happens to everyone. But the least you can hope for is that you don't turn into a morgue horror story like the individuals in today's show. Ready for the most terrifying, disgusting, shocking morgue horror stories you've ever heard? Warning, content and photos ahead that some might find disturbing. Smoked barbecue ribs. Who doesn't love a nice plate full of delicious smoked meats fresh from slow roasting over a barbecue? Well, other than vegetarians, of course. You might, however, be put off barbecue forever if you happen to be the mortician whose first day on the job was handling the corpse of an old man who had died in a house fire. Unable to retrieve the body until the flames had been put out, the firemen were helpless to do anything until the raging inferno was brought under control. Then came the revolting job of removing the cadaver. For those familiar with southern styles of barbecuing where the meat is smothered in burning embers, you can already picture what the corpse looked like. The entire outer layer of skin and flesh had been blackened to a char. But when the autopsy was conducted and the rib cage cracked open, the meat inside had been cooked to perfection. The crispy skin crackled beautifully, the way you'd expect good barbecue to, and the roasted meat still ran with its own juices. It's said that humans taste like pork, and the individual responsible for this autopsy said that the body smelled exactly like a roasted pig, though he was put off pork for several months afterwards. Personally, this story just makes us hungry, but if you're hungry and thinking of eating fish, you might want to think twice after hearing our next morgue horror story, Boned to Death. Fish. It's the only food you can never tell when it's gone bad because it always smells like, well, fish. For some reason though, millions of people around the world love to eat fish straight into extinction. And some with an appetite so voracious they end up inhaling a fish bone or two. Now, if you've never had the pleasure, take it from us, swallowing a fish bone is about the worst dinner time experience you can have. The sharp, pointy bones can be a dangerous choking hazard, and inhaled fish bones have even been found in people's lungs where they can pose a serious risk and need to be removed via surgery. However, even we've never heard of a fish bone killing someone in quite this way. A woman assisting in an autopsy discovered that the man they were working on had extremely swollen bowels. As the stomach was opened, the bowels were swollen to several times normal size and were rock hard and stuck together, making it difficult to continue the autopsy. However, as the cause of death was further investigated, the coroners discovered that the man had swallowed a large fish bone, which punctured straight through his stomach and into his intestines, actually skewering them together. The resulting bleeding and infection was enough to seal his fate. So next time you're eating fish, make sure you check for bones thoroughly, or risk becoming another morgue horror story yourself. Our next horror story might make you consider diet changes because your last meal can have consequences long after you're dead. Silent but deadly slice of za. Pizza. If we were on death row and we had our pick of a last meal, it'd probably be a fresh, hot pizza pie. But for a young man who had no idea his slice of pizza would be his last, that final meal would have smelly consequences long after his death. The victim of a gunshot wound, the young man was soon declared dead and taken to the local morgue. Now, autopsies are rarely carried out right away, with the body being stored for a day or two before the autopsy can be conducted. Even after you're dead though, a lot of body processes continue to happen without you, including digestion. That's thanks to the bounty of gut flora which aid in digestion and will continue eating whatever food is in your system until all those bacteria start eating you instead, like a pair of abandoned cats consuming your lonely corpse. What all this consumption means though is gas, and a lot of it. As the young man's body was prepared for the autopsy, the coroners needed to trace the path of the bullet that killed him. In order to do this, he had to be rolled over, and as the body was moved, the change in pressure led to the release of a lot of several days-old digested pizza fart gas being released. If you think a regular fart's bad, imagine being dead for a few days and then letting one rip. Ever heard a dead person speak? Stay tuned for our next morgue horror story and the accompanying video. Dead men do tell tales. Ever accidentally left a packet of meat out too long only to discover the package bloated and practically about to burst from all the gas that's built up? That's thanks to decomposition, and when you die, you might as well turn into a human balloon. Well, that gas has to escape somehow, and much to the terrorizing surprise of many medical students and first-time mortician assistants, often that gas comes out through the mouth hole, leading to terrifying moans, groans, and even screams. Our next story is more surprising than terrifying, but definitely proof that you shouldn't judge even the good book by its cover. Preacher in the streets, freak in the sheets. Contrary to popular opinion, God really has nothing against sex, and in fact meant it as a gift. He just frowns on you for having it outside the bounds of a relationship, and honestly, anyone who's ever had to perform the 7 a.m. walk of shame or ruined perfectly good friendships can understand why. It might come as a surprise to you then that even the most devoutly religious people can and will get downright nasty between the sheets. Take the case of a recently deceased Baptist minister, a pillar of his community. The good preacher had spent 8 decades tending to the flock of God. Imagine the surprise then of the mortician who had to prepare the body for burial and discovered something definitely outside of the stereotype of the typical preacher. This 80-year-old man of God had a full-on Prince Albert piercing through his captain's mast. And if you don't know what this is, then we'll leave it to you to discover by your own devices. Rest assured, it's not the type of thing you'd expect from an elderly man, let alone one who was a dedicated minister, but we're willing to bet his wife had been made plenty happy throughout their marriage. Our next morgue horror story proves that some people are so dedicated to their job they'll do anything, no matter how unsettling. Fits like a glove. You've seen it a million times in crime movies. The mobsters just condemned a man to sleep with the fishes, but instead of packing him a pillow and warm comforter, they put a bullet in his brain and toss him in the river. There's a reason rivers are such popular places to dump bodies. The currents can typically make it harder to discover a body, and scavengers or predators can make short work out of even the meatiest of corpses. Water can also rapidly accelerate decomposition, making it very difficult for investigators to gain any useful information even if the body is eventually found. However, one forensic tech was determined to identify her man no matter what. In an advanced stage of decomposition, the skin had already started to detach, known as slippage. This happens when the epidermis or top layer of the skin separates from the dermis layer. The result can look like a blister, but with some careful work the entire top layer of the skin can be removed, leading to a human glove. If you thought we weren't going to show you a photo of what that looks like, think again. Also, another warning that this next image is definitely not for the weak of stomach. Prying the skin under the fingerprints loose, the forensic tech slipped her own hand inside the loose skin, wearing it like a glove, and proceeded to gather the needed fingerprints by smoothing the skin out. Frankly, this sounds absolutely disturbing to us, and we can't help but keep looking at our own hands, wondering if someone will wear us too one day. The next horror story definitely contains images you don't want to see if you've eaten recently, or plan to. The Stone Man. Back in the 1980s in Bombay, India, a serial killer was on a rampage. Like many serial killers, this one preyed on the most vulnerable, notably the homeless population that often slept on the pavement itself. Working the alleys and back streets of the city, the killer, who would come to be known as the Stone Man, used a large rock to simply smash the heads of his victims. Stone Man killed 12 homeless people starting in 1985, and always struck when the victim was sleeping and thus helpless. Only one man managed to survive the brutal attack, but unfortunately in the dim of light where he was sleeping, he could never give the police a good description of his attacker. By 1988, the killings had stopped, only to resume again in 1989 in Calcutta. Panic gripped the city as the killer murdered an estimated dozen more people by dropping a very large rock or concrete block on their head as they slept. The attacker came to be known as Stone Man, and his identity was never discovered. What was truly shocking was the amount of damage Stone Man inflicted on his victims, who mercifully likely died very quickly, if not instantly, from the massive blow. Warning, this next medical image is truly disturbing. Each victim had their skull completely crushed, often leading to the eyes popping clear out of the skull. The incredible damage inflicted by Stone Man on his victims means that the rock or concrete block he would have used would have been very heavy indeed, meaning Stone Man must have been a well-built man to lug that heavy thing around. Stone Man was never discovered, though several copycat murderers have happened since then, and a film based on Stone Man has even been produced. Now, go watch morgue employees reveal things that would scare everyone, or click this other video instead.